Hey guys, just wanted to take a little bit of time and give you guys a status update since I didn't receive any angry faces yet on my post from last night, letting you know that I was thinking about doing this. I did get a few likes, so I will give it a shot too. So we're doing a Way of the Force progressive sealed link at Gabby's Olympic Cards and Comics, and what that entails, if you're not familiar with the concept, which may not be, is that we're taking the sealed format, which is where you get a set number of packs. You open those packs, and then you have to build your team using those packs as well as the Rivals kit to build your team in your deck for play in the event. What's different about the progressive environment is that we have given you a checkoff sheet, which is used to track the cards that you open. Each time you're there and you open packs, you log them, and then one of the other players is going to go through and verify what you opened is accurate and make sure that everything's logged correctly. Then they sign off on it. Those sheets get turned in so that I have possession of those, so we can make sure that nobody's using product that wasn't open during the sealed environment, just to keep everybody on the up and up. There's still a lot of faith and trust in the system, because like once you build your deck and stuff like that, basically we're doing a deck list mostly just to verify that you have the right colors and right cards and stuff like that, make sure nothing's illegal that way. And then we're playing. We're not handing the deck list to each player to let them review what you have before you play kind of thing. It's just a quick once the deck is built, again, somebody goes over the list very quickly, counting the number of cards, making sure that there's all the right colors, and then we play a few rounds. What makes this progressive, again, is that each event you open more cards, you're adding those to your build and stuff like that. And then as we go through, by the end of this time, which is 6 events, we're going to be working with 55 cards, I think it is. So that's a decent amount to be building from at the end. One of the things that, if you are thinking about doing this, that is very, very important, is making sure that you don't just hand them a blank list where they have to write all of the cards and the quantities that they open each time. I actually want to make a spreadsheet to use for that purpose, and the spreadsheet made it so much easier to track and see what you had and what you did, and to find and locate what you opened so you can document it. So I would highly recommend that if you were doing that. If you are interested in this, I do have a Google Sheet for that purpose. I also have the Google Doc that outlines how we're running the progressive format, like the number of packs and the cost and stuff like that. So I would be happy to share that with anybody if they wanted. So the actual event started, and there was a couple key characters that I want to talk about. One character that I want to mention that has been valuable, but not as valuable as I had hoped for two of us who are running Governor Pryce. Because of the lack of Emperor's Throne Room and also the lack of that second die, getting that special is a little bit harder and a little less guaranteed. And so that can make it so that she seems a little less valuable from that aspect. But oh my, the mind games that she's able to play because of that fear of that special, especially when you have the battlefield, it really puts your opponent on a point where they have to decide to either target her first and deal damage to her and get her off the board, or they have to be removing her die so that you can't get that special, or when it gets the special. And then the other thing she does is that oftentimes she motivates them to claim the battlefield earlier than they probably normally would. And so I think that part of her is really, really good. And It's been a very valuable tool for my builds. But like I said, it was just, I was hoping for more from that special, but when you only got a 30% chance of getting it, what can you really expect, right? The two characters that I really want to, well, let's do the other honorable mention. The other honorable mention is Fifth Brother, but unfortunately it's not really Fifth Brother that becomes the honorable mention. It is his lightsaber. If you can get that Fifth Brother lightsaber on him, and the player who has Fifth Brother and the Fifth Brother lightsaber, the only game he lost yesterday was the game where he did not get out Fifth Brother's lightsaber round 1 or round 2. Because that extra ping damage and that ability to resolve that modifier as if it's a black die, that is just very, very valuable in this format. Because when you're looking at, damage across from you on your opponent's side, when you see that blue modifier, a lot of times you're focused then on those base black sides and getting rid of those so that they can't resolve that modifier. And man, it's not that way, because that +2 or that +3, when they resolve it, even if they're resolving it as just a die by itself because they don't have a black base side to resolve it with, that extra ping damage adds up very quick. So that combination is very good. That ping, like I said, ping damage, man, that is good. And speaking about ping damage, that leads me into talking about Cassian, who I had the pleasure of opening. The first event, I tried to run him more of a mill format, and I did great in most of my games, except for my game against Fifth Brother, the Fifth Brother player, just because he was able to dump out a lot more damage into me, and he focused on Cassian first, and so that kind of left me at a point where my mill slowed down a lot. So I focused more this time about making Cassian about damage, and that extra ping damage is great, especially against a 2-character lineup, because what you're doing is you're focusing down that main character, and because they're trying to keep that main character alive, they start pushing over that extra indirect damage onto their secondary character or their support characters, and that begins to build up. In the game against another character I'll talk about, Dooku, having that range side was very valuable, but also being able to resolve that 1 ranged or that 2 ranged into Dooku, and then have him dumping that indirect point of damage onto this Ketsu, made for a really good play later on, using that 0-cost villain card that allows you to move a damage from one of your opponent's cards to another opponent's card. I had a 2 ranged damage sitting on Cassian, and he had 2 damage left on Count Dooku. He had, I believe, Fighter had a shield on it, and so he was able to take that shield, which put Dooku out of lethal range, using Cassian's die, which I believe was the last die I had in the pool at that point. And so I was able to play that yellow event, which was a clutch card in 2 of my games, and move that damage over from Ketsu onto Dooku, which then meant when I resolved that 2 ranged, Dooku was dead because he was back in lethal with the shield on him. And it wasn't something he expected, and so I was able to do that and kill Dooku, and then that just left Ketsu with who had already had like 4 damage on her from indirect damage being dealt against my Cassian. And in the long run, Cassian just was able to roll enough guns with Retzel's Blaster and the Verpine sniper to take out Ketsu for the win. The other character that I want to talk about is Dooku, and man, Dooku's ability in the sealed environment, especially in our sealed environment right now, because we have so many people running melee characters, and then also most of the melee upgrades, that can become a great soft mitigation. It either forces your opponent to be discarding and rerolling more, which helps push them through their cards, because oftentimes in a sealed environment, running out of cards is a big deal, because they tend to, your rounds tend to go longer. We went to time out of the three rounds we played, we went to time once. Out of the 3 games we played, we went to time once. The other 2 were pretty close, like within 3 minutes or something like that. And so burning through cards to reroll could lose you the game. And so that little extra, just you had that 2 melee on Pryce, or you had that 2 melee on Ketsu, or that 2 for 1 on Anakin. Well, now it's blank, and now I'm on a 3 for 1. Was really, really good. And I think the only reason I beat Dooku was because I had Cassian was ranged on him, and then I was also able to get out the Fang Fighter for more additional range, and that was clutch against that deck. On the support side, one of the supports that I have found very, very good, especially if I can get it turn 1, is the Profitable Goods, or the one with Hondo on it with the boxes. It's a support. You pay 1, play it, you exhaust the support, and you exhaust the character. You place 3 resources on it. And then on the next turn, you can exhaust the support, exhaust the character. You can either place 3 more resources on it, or you can actually take the resources off. And both scenarios that I did, I only did it once to get the resources on, and then once to get the resources off. But both times, it was able to allow me to drop my Fang Fighter, and then also either drop my Anakin's Pod Racer or my Rex's pistol in the one case. So it was able to let me drop 5 points of stuff on that turn, and that was a good swing point for me to put me ahead of my dice capacity for what I was rolling out against my opponents. Again, I don't know that in a fast constructed deck that's going to be valuable enough, but in the sealed environment, because it is a little slower, I think there's a lot of value in that. Now, I wish I would have been exhausting like Jawa for it, but instead I was exhausting my Anakin Skywalker, partly because I was against Dooku, and if I rolled out Skywalker, he was probably going to get blanked anyways, so it made sense to do it there. And then the other event that I want to talk about is Nature's Charm, I believe is the title. It is the zero-cost neutral event that allows you to reroll up to 2 dice, either yours or your opponent's. It's got the pictures of the porgs on it. It's my daughter's favorite card in the game, just because it's got porgs on it. I know I used it in 2 of my events for a good swing, and then I know that a couple of the other rounds, some of the other players used it too. And again, I think it's a little bit in sealed. Soft mitigation seems to have a little bit more value. Again, partly because of that whole forcing them to discard and reroll. But I also found that timing is very, very important with a card like that. And in the right time, at the right moment, that card can be very valuable. So one of the scenarios I had was Anakin was sitting at, I believe, 8 damage. And he's got 10 life, I believe. Right? So he had 2 damage left on him that he could take. My opponent had rolled out Koon's Starfighter, and it had 2 ranged on it. And then I had my Cassian out on a blank. And so what I was able to do was play Nature's Charm, forcing my opponent who had no resources to re-roll Plo Koon's Starfighter, and then I also re-rolled my Cassian on his blank. So with Cassian, any side other than the blank is worth it because it's going to give you at least 1 damage. And then any side on the Plo Koon's Lightsaber for me at that moment was worth it because it wasn't going to kill my Anakin and give me Anakin for 1 more round. So I was able to do that, re-rolled, and I believe on Cassian I got the 1 gun, and then on Plo Koon he got the shield. So he was able to take the shield, which then slowed me down a little bit on the next round, so I had to deal with more damage. But I was able to actually basically clear off that shield with my 1 gun, and then also do an indirect damage, which he then put on the secondary character of Ketsu. And so that was a very good play, very valuable. It did exactly what I needed. Like I said, that timing of it of, I don't really care what you roll on the die, as long as it's not exactly what's on the die, is very, very clutch in certain situations. So that's kind of the wrap-up that I would like to share. That's my opinion on some of the cards that we played and what we saw and experienced. Again, if you want to hear more about it, our next sealed event, or next part of our sealed tournament, is going to be 2 weeks from yesterday. So I will go ahead and, if you guys still want to hear, post another video at that point in time. I will go ahead and say, thank you for this opportunity. I love Star Wars Destiny, and I love the community, and I'm just glad that I had the opportunity to do this. So go ahead and again, like it if you want to see more, if you want to hear more. Share your questions, your opinions, as comments. We'll try to maybe get some conversation going. I will do better on making sure I have the card names in front of me, but unfortunately my life involves 2 boys that are very loud and rambunctious, so one of the few places I have a good amount of quiet that allows for something like recording like this is in my car, especially since I have an extremely long commute. Well, not extremely long. I have about a 45-minute commute, so it gives me plenty of time to talk and stuff like that. So on that, I will say, do or do not, there is no try, and may the force be with you.